trial for X's murder has finally started. After a long wait, the suspects will now have to fight their case. One of the most surprising things to come out of the trial was hearing one of the defendant's lawyers asking Drake to write a deposition, marking Drake as a potential witness in the case. With the way the court case is going on, it looks like the suspects don't have a strong enough defense, and the lawyers are pulling at straws, looking for any way to make their suspects look innocent. While it seems clear to the courts that Drake isn't involved in the murder of X, the general public doesn't seem to think so, to the point that people are convinced that X was killed by Drake. To see where the beef came from, we need to go back to 2017. When Drake was on the Boy Meets World tour in 2017, he previewed a new song called KMT. People noticed the similarities in the flow of KMT and X's song Look At Me, which was released in 2016. With enough online speculation on whether Drake stole X's flow, the situation got so big that Drake had to address the situation. He said he could see the similarities between the songs, but that was merely coincidental.
I'm sitting there, I'm trying to read, figure out who they're talking about. I find out who they're talking about, and I listen to it. I'm like, okay, I see where people could draw this comparison off of the first two lines, whether it be the cadence or the rhyme pattern or whatever. Yo, it's crazy that people think that after all this time, after all I've been through, that I'm the type of person to go some song that's on SoundCloud. It doesn't have two.
X wasn't happy with this response and responded to it on Twitter. In an interview after X was released from prison, X claimed that Drake was in contact with his management before the release of KMT. However, nothing came of this, and X was still persistent that Drake stole his flow.
Drake hit up a DJ that I fought with. He's saying he go call your manager within the next few days. Okay. So he doesn't do it. He was like, yo, you gotta listen to this shit. This nigga Drake a fault nigga. I hear da-da-da-da-da-da-da. I'm like, what the fuck?
This wasn't the end of the situation, as X continued to go after Drake on his Instagram lives.
He says, no matter what anybody says, I didn't initiate shit. This nigga ran off with my shit. Everybody knew he ran off with my shit, and they just trying to tell me to basically be quiet. No, y'all can suck my dick. Bruh, nobody's gonna openly disrespect the fuck out of me and disrespect my craft when I'm 19 years old. That motherfucker.
On Twitter, X started disrespecting Drake's mother. After this, the beefing with Drake settled down, but it was far from the end of it. In January 2018, X started the Helping Hand Challenge, where he donated to foster homes. 1 month later, Drake released God's Plan, a song with a music video with the same concept to X's challenge. Drake also posted to his Instagram story, in which he may be alluding to X's challenge, calling his moves not being about tactics or not being about streams, which may be seen as a sneak diss to X. It is also worth noting that X was trying to be a more positive person, and in contrast to his earlier behaviour, he responded to this situation more calmly and in a more thoughtful way. In February 2018, X's Twitter was hacked, and some fake explicit photos of Drake were posted, which are too explicit to be shown here. Since X was trying to be a more positive person, he tried to de-escalate the situation. He apologised to Drake and said that he didn't want to continue the beef. X may have wanted to squash the beef with Drake and maybe reconcile with Drake, but X will never get that chance.
Murder of a 20-year-old rapper in Broward County. It appears 2 men were trying to rob him.
On June 18, 2018, XXXTENTACION was murdered in his hometown. This came as a massive shockwave to his fans and to the world. People wanted someone to blame for X's death so badly that a rapper named Soulja Kid was falsely accused of being involved in the murder of X, even though he had nothing to do with it. The internet had made up their minds before we even knew who the real suspects were. People were looking for someone to blame for X's death, and people started looking at the history between X and Drake and started making connections. People believe that Drake has been making references to X's death and subliminally hinting that he was involved. In Drake's song I'm Upset, Drake says XXX, that's the only time I shoot below the neck, which was misinterpreted as a confession to having X shot since X was shot in the neck. What this lyric is actually about is about not showing your face when sending nude photos. This song was also released long before X died. Another reason why people think X was killed by Drake was because X posted to his Instagram story, if anything happens to him, it was Drake. In Travis Scott's song Sicko Mode featuring Drake, there's a guy with a similar hairstyle to X that is crushed by a rock. People believe this was another subliminal diss to X. And in Drake's most recent song, if you break down the numbers into Roman numerals, it is 3 10s, which is 3 X's, XXX. During the writing of the script, Robert Allen, a suspect in the murder of X, has cleared Drake's name, saying that he's never met him and doesn't know anyone related to him.
Yeah. You even know Drake?
Not personally, no.
Okay. Personally or otherwise, through even middle people?
No.
One overlooked detail in the beef between X and Drake is Ski Master Slump God actually met Drake and said that Drake fucked with X's music, while also hinting that more will come to the light soon, but so far this hasn't been elaborated on. In the eyes of the law and the people who are close to X, Drake wasn't involved, but that doubt and conspiracy will forever be with people. Same as the way people say Biggie killed Tupac, or the conspiracy that Suge Knight got Eazy-E killed. As long as people keep making connections to the lyric, they'll forever say that Drake was involved in the murder of X, regardless of what the courts say, regardless of what people in X's circle say. And I think that Drake should address the situation in some manner, since he's never spoke about X since he passed.